Hello, college football fans, and welcome once again to the SEC Yesterday and Today. I'm your host, Bert LaCroix, and this is episode 23, and it's going to be a good one. We are going to preview the Alabama-LSU game primarily, and also the Kentucky-Georgia game and the Auburn and Texas A&M game. It's going to be a good one. We have a great guest coming on, and I'll tell you about him in just a minute. But first of all, I'm going to run down some series history on the Alabama and LSU game. I'm going to be brief with this portion of the program that finds me coming solo to you. We'll talk to our guest again. You'll hear that momentarily. But let's run through the series history briefly. Alabama and LSU. Alabama leads the series, 52 wins to 25 wins. 5 of the games have ended in a tie. Alabama's largest margin of victory came in 1922 at 47-3. Alabama's longest winning streak, 11 games, 1971 to 1981. And LSU's longest winning streak, 5 games, 2003 through 2007, their largest margin of victory, 28-0 in 1957, Alabama and LSU. And right now we're going to get down to it. And I'll tell you just a little bit about our guest. His name is Mike Detillier, and he is a college and pro football analyst. He has a program along with Bobby Hebert, his co-host on WWL AM and FM in New Orleans. He also does the SaintsReport.com. He does some NFL draft guru sort of work for ESPN radio and TV. And that's just a little bit about Mike. He does more things like write blogs for different programs. He's a featured speaker at many LSU and New Orleans Saints events. But we are tickled to death to have Mike with us. It's a great program, and I think you'll enjoy it very much. So here he is, Mike Detillier.
Okay, Mike, we're tickled to death to have you on the SEC Yesterday and Today, episode 23. So welcome to the program.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
Well, we've got a lot of great football in the Southeastern Conference this week. We're going to get right down to it. But before we do that, we'll talk a little bit about the past. It is the SEC Yesterday and Today. And yesterday in LSU football history is a big deal. It's Halloween. And why don't you give us a brief summation about that for people that may not know, that may live under a rock somewhere?
Yeah, it's a crazy deal. Growing up, that used to be that film of Billy Cannon's Halloween Night Run. You watched it every year. I wasn't born yet to watch, to actually read about it because, for us television, there was no television coverage of that game. But, Billy, he was the face of the Southeast Conference in the 50s. When you think about it, Heisman Trophy winner, and, he was a big-time guy. He was, the first big-time signee for the AFL with the Houston Oilers. And, I got a chance to work with Billy quite a few times. Man, you talk about a storyteller. Man, Billy got some stories. Man, unbelievable stories. But the funniest story he had told me was they had to basically played LSU Ole Miss again in the Sugar Bowl after they ended up beating them on the Halloween Night Run. And, man, Ole Miss just took the belt out and spanked the backside of LSU, but good in that game. And Billy told me, he said, man, Mike, I had a rough game. Man, I didn't hold on to the football well. I had a couple fumbles and missed some tackles on defense. He said, man, the Rams, he said, Pete Rozelle at that time was the general manager of the Rams. Mm-hmm. He said, I had a contract, and he said I was going to sign it, and I fumbled the pencil in the end zone. Now, listen, if you know Billy, that he would do a dead face. I mean, that no emotion, nothing with it. But Billy was just an unbelievable guy, had a lot of twists and turns in his life, and certainly in his older years turned his life around. But he was as good a storyteller as there was, and you talk about a great football player.
Oh, man.
Who played on offense, defense, was the punter, returned kickoffs, punts. It was unreal the type athlete Billy Cannon was back in the 50s, and he's, the only LSU player to win the Heisman Trophy. And he's a special guy as far as SEC is concerned. But that Halloween night run, Paul Dietzel, many years ago, Paul told me, he said, Mike, I was on the sidelines, and I told Billy, the ball bounces, let it bounce. Do not pick it up.
Oh.
And he said, the ball takes one funny bounce, and he said, I see Billy running up to it, and he grabs it, and I was like, no, no, no. And he said, within seconds, I was, go, go, go. He said, I saw Billy had a seam, and he said, I knew nobody was going to bring him down once he broke a few tackles. He said he was off to the races. And if you watch that film, one of the fastest guys in the world was that referee trailing Billy. He was 1 yard behind him. Billy was the 100-yard dash champion in Louisiana. And that referee, he was step for step with Cannon all the way to the end zone from the 20 on. So, Billy, he always get teased about it. He said, man, that was a plant. He said, that was a guy I ran against when I was at a Struma. He said, I was a plant referee to make me look slow.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And unfortunately, we just lost Billy not too long ago. Rest in peace.
Yeah, Billy passed away in May, and in fact, we had done a little luncheon, him and I. This was back in February, and he hadn't changed. I mean, he was one story after another with things that had happened, and he did. I got him to talk about, the importance of professional football and how the AFL started. And he brought up to me about, Mike, the AFL wouldn't have merged if it wouldn't have been for one guy.
And that's him?
That's Joe Namath.
Joe got that $400,000 contract.
Yeah, he said, Mike, listen. He said, man, all I know is the NFL, they were slobbering over Joe. And somehow, some way, they wanted to have him connected to the NFL, and he said, you think about what Al Davis did. He was certainly a big part of that. We got a huge TV contract in the mid-'60s to go from ABC to NBC, but he said all of that trailed to Joe Namath. He said, because once Joe signed with the Jets and not with the Cardinals in the NFL, he said, that changed our world in the AFL completely. And, I thought that was some pretty strong observation by Billy, who was there. And he understood, what it was. And he said, listen, I never cheered for the Jets in my life until they played the Colts in Super Bowl III. He said, I wouldn't have pulled for Namath for anything. But he said, that game, I was pulling for Broadway Joe to win it because he said, I wanted to stick it to the NFL.
Oh yeah, and that did put him on the map. I remember that. I remember the cover of that Sports Illustrated because I was about 12 years old then, and we thought $400,000 was all the money in the world at that time. But then today, that seems
$400,000 is a workout bonus for these guys today.
That's exactly right. And let's get right down to the business at hand. We have some de facto playoffs games coming up this weekend, and one of them, the biggest game in the country, is at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at night. Mike, give us your observations on this game coming up Saturday.
Well, listen, it's the first real huge test for Alabama, playing on the road against a really good football team. And I'll be honest, I don't think anybody saw that LSU entering this game would have just one loss. I mean, with that schedule, you figured they'd have a couple by now. But Coach O has done a really good job, us against the world. That's been his mentality almost from day one. Offensively for LSU, I'm not concerned about Joe Burrow. My biggest concern offensively for LSU is the receiving corps for LSU has been very inconsistent catching the football. Against Florida, they had 7 dropped passes. Bert, all I'm telling you is they can't not waste an opportunity to make a play against Alabama. If you got a couple of drop passes, you're not going to win that game. Receivers have to make plays for LSU. I think LSU has the advantage in the kicking game this year, certainly with Cole Tracy, who has really been money for him. Defensively, I think the biggest key is, can LSU put pressure on Tua, because if they don't, then they in for a long night. Tagovailoa, in my opinion, he's the best quarterback I've seen in the Southeast Conference since Peyton Manning. I'll debate anybody on that. He's the type of guy that his greatest asset as a player is his ability to read and recognize where to go with the football downfield. Mm-hmm. I've never seen a guy as a sophomore be able to read and recognize coverages like Tua is able to do. And he certainly got a real strong running game. And without Devin White for a half, I'm sure Alabama is going to run the football right up the gut. But I think the big key here, and I think even Coach O would tell you this, that they have not got a consistent pass rush all season long. Yeah. Once K'Lavon Chaisson went down in game one, it's not been the same. Chaisson, he was a rare tiger in the woods. I mean, he could rush a quarterback. I know Ed told me, Mike, I've recruited and mentored 11 first-round pick defensive linemen. I never had a pass rusher like Chaisson. So that's saying a lot.
Wow. That's
and so, him going down game one, they don't have. But listen, injuries happen. Alabama's got some guys down too. So you got to just move on with it, and they got to create pressure. And I think for Tua, what you got to do is not so much edge pressure, but interior pressure. Yeah. Because, I work with 5 former NFL quarterbacks each week, and all of them say the same thing. One thing they hate is pressure right up the middle. Mm-hmm. It takes away your ability to step up in the pocket and make the throw, and then you're in the reverse position, if you're trying to get away from them. So I think that's the biggest key to this football game. Can LSU get a pass rush and a consistent one on Tua? Because when you've seen him play, that he's completing 70% of his throws. He has 25 touchdowns, 0 pass interceptions. Nobody else has been able to do it. Yeah, and so if you don't do it, then you're in for a long afternoon against Alabama playing. So I think that's the real big key here. And for LSU to win, they're going to have to get help from Alabama, turnover-wise. You just can't score point for point with them. That's not going to work. You're going to have to get some turnovers, and I think that pressure creation is going to be a key for LSU. Can they do it when they've had difficulties all season long getting that edge pressure ever since Chaisson went down against Miami of Florida?
Yeah, well, now what about LSU's offense? Do you think they can generate enough of a rushing attack and balance it out with some passing by Burrow to be able to score a few points on Alabama? Because Alabama's probably going to score some points, and LSU would probably love to keep it a low-scoring game. So how do you see LSU being able to move the football and score on the tie?
Bird, if this gets into the 30s, then LSU don't have a shot. I mean,
that 30 was kind of like a magic number.
Yeah, to me, that's where I think LSU's got to keep this game in the 20s, and that's going to be difficult. They got to play a little small ball, which means you got to run the football, and LSU's quick passing game has to work. Because you just can't rely on the deep ball, because you're going up against Alabama, and they got 3 defensive linemen, and that's a possibility that all 3 could go in round 1. When you're talking about Quinn Williams, you're talking about Raekwon Davis, Isaiah Buggs, young man from Louisiana, went to Alabama. You cannot, you can't be one-dimensional against them. And I think in the past under Coach Miles, they just wanted to run the ball. It's different now with Insminger, and also you got Joe Burrow. So I think the short passing game and the ability to run the football is going to be a key, but they got to balance it, and they got to come out throwing it. They got to come out throwing it, because Alabama, in essence, they're going to say, okay, you talk about changing, but until you prove it, we're going to stack the line of scrimmage on you. We're going to stack it.
Yeah, they're going to stack it up and make you throw that football. They're going to have to protect Burrow, and he's going to have to be able to hit some of those short passes like you say. But he's also going to need to stretch the field vertically a little bit to open that running game up, I would think, too.
Yeah, one of the things Steve has told me, Steve Insminger, is, Mike, in every game, I want at least 4 deep passes. And, he said, if we got good protection, I'd like to throw it maybe 6. But he said, against some teams, you're not going to be able to throw it that many times because of the pressure. But he says, you got to test them deep downfield.
Right.
And one of the things I think LSU will try to do is with a fast-paced offense. I think they feel as though that caught Georgia off stride, and it hurts your ability to substitute. Also, there's some mental mistakes that go along with that. Everybody's trying to communicate real quickly on where they got to be. So I think in a very similar manner to what they tried to do and had success against Georgia, getting up to the line of scrimmage real quickly, I think they'll try to do against Alabama in the same way. I think if Alabama's vulnerable anywhere, it's in the deep secondary. When you lose the guys like Minka and Ronnie Harrison and those guys, that's tough to replace.
Yeah.
Now, Dontre Thompson's been outstanding as a safety, but what I'm saying is I think that's an area where I think LSU, they'll try a few times deep downfield, but really this offense has been built around a short, quick passing game and really tall receivers. But you got to make the catch. And from time to time has not been consistent for LSU.
Oh, yeah. They have definitely got to do that. And it's possible. It's at Baton Rouge at night. It could be done. Stranger things have happened. Alabama, some people think, is invincible, but nobody's invincible. And so let's get right down to it and make a prediction. Score prediction if you'd like or not. I'm going to let you go ahead and start first.
Yeah, one of the things I tell people all the time about, and it is going to be really loud, and it is tough to communicate and that sort of thing. But also, too, this is the first time LSU's team in a few years has played with some pressure on them. They're the third-ranked team in the country. How this young team handles that part is not being brought up about you going up against the champs. They've played in a Final Four series and played in a national championship game. They understand pressure. How many pressure games have the guys here been under? And you could say zero. So now, they're going to have a lot of questions answered about this LSU football team. I really think 2019 is LSU's real shot to go for a national championship with the schedule and the people they got returning back for next year. I'm going to go Alabama 30, LSU 20. I think that, it'll be the 14 to 14.5 points is a lot of points in Tiger Stadium. And LSU's defense, I think, will hold that for a while. But I think the difference maker is going to be Tua Tagovailoa. And so I'm going to go with LSU 20, but Alabama's got 30.
Yeah, I was thinking somewhere near that, probably like Alabama 31-20, 31-17, near what the line was. I think it'll be a close game for the most part, but Alabama they got the horses, and I expect them to win, but we'll find out on Saturday night.
And they got Secretariat taking the snap. They got the ultimate at the quarterback position. I think that becomes the difference in this football game, and even Coach O has brought it up. And I feel as though he's the best player in the country. And this week, Coach O has said the exact same thing to me. He said, Mike, he's the best. We're going to play, and he's the best in college football today.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to find out Saturday night, number 1 versus number 3 from Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. Now let's move on to that second de facto playoff game. The Kentucky Wildcats hosting the Georgia Bulldogs up in Lexington. How do you see that one going?
When I watched Kentucky today, Bert, I've seen this show before. It reminds me a lot of those good Les Miles teams that he had at LSU. They're real strong defensively. They don't give up a lot of big plays. They make you earn every inch offensively. They know great shakes in the passing game, and they got a good, strong running game. But, Georgia's the better team. And I'm going to go with Georgia here. I think Kentucky will try to play a little small ball, but I do think that Georgia and the explosive weapons they have will end up pulling this game out. So I like Georgia in this football game. Man, I'm so impressed in what Kentucky has done this year.
Oh, yeah.
But good gracious, when you look how talented that Georgia team is, and then you have to prepare for both the passing quarterback and Jake Fromm, and you have a guy like Justin Fields. that, I think you're going to see more and more of down the stretch. I just think here, I'll go Georgia. I know Kentucky's got the home field on this spot, and it's a huge, huge game for the Wildcats. But I'm going with Georgia here, 28-20. I just think Georgia's the better football team, more talented team, and they're battle-tested. Now, you're talking about, you under the gun in Kentucky. For the first time, you got pressure on you now because people expect you to play really well. Oh, yeah. Georgia has been through that as a football team, so I'm going to go with the Bulldogs here, 28-20 over Kentucky.
I cannot disagree with you. I think it'll be near what the line is. Kentucky's going to be excited. We've got a friend that's saying this is the biggest game that's ever been played in Lexington. The biggest football game I've seen.
Yeah, the football for sure.
Because they do play some basketball, but they're excited up there now. And it is going to be a great ball game, I think, but I'm looking for something like 24-17. Georgia also. Georgia has been there, and Kentucky has not, but I'm looking forward to a slug out there on Saturday afternoon. And, why don't we go to the Plains and my Auburn Tigers hosting the Texas A&M Aggies and new head coach Jimbo Fisher.
Well, I was disappointed what I saw last week with Jimbo's offense. Now Mississippi State's defense is really good. And they're looking at a team very similar in Auburn. Just a gut feeling here. I think A&M wins this game close. I can't give you a really good reason why. Last week, to see that kind of come apart on A&M offensively, because I think they're a much improved defensive team than we've seen in years past. A&M, but their offense, Bonds, he just wasn't on last week throwing the football. But Mississippi State's front seven is really good too now. Yeah. It's awfully good. So, you know what? I think in a close game, I think it comes down to a field goal late. I'm going to go A&M 23, Auburn 20.
Well, I should pick A&M because it's not within my heart. If I think Auburn's got a chance to win, I'm going to pick them. I'm afraid I'll jinx them. But after the first part of the year and how the season has progressed for Auburn, I picked Ole Miss to beat Auburn last week. I picked them to win in double digits, and they did not. So common sense tells me keep picking against Auburn. But I can't do it. And I see a score of something like 23-21 Auburn's favor.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to a field goal. I think this is a field goal game that one team is going to end up with the ball at the end with that shot, and they kick it through. I think Jimbo's got that program on the right track.
Yeah.
And, boy, before the Mississippi State game, I think a lot of people felt, hey, listen, he had it rolling. But last week was a come-down-to-earth moment for Jimbo. And what was disappointing is how they played on offense. Not necessarily, because that big play at the end with Fitzgerald is one thing, and Mississippi State is pretty much one-dimensional, running the football. That Nick has been a highly erratic passer, but boy, he gives you, he's a big man running that ball when he's got it. But I was just disappointed in A&M offensively. They didn't seem to have anything click. And that's not normally the case with Jimbo. And does it happen back-to-back weeks? Not normally the case. So, I'll go with A&M here, but I think it could easily go Auburn's way.
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement with that, too. Those two pretty darn good defenses, and offenses have been a little suspect. Mond has done well at times. He's been able to scramble for some yards, but it should be a great ball game. And I think all three of these games we talked about today should be very good ones. And before we close out tonight, though, I've got to ask you a question that's maybe a little more important than football down in South Louisiana. Where can you find the best gumbo and po' boys in New Orleans?
Oh, my God, in New Orleans, man, listen, I'll tell you, for po' boys, that would be a long line, but if you're looking for fried catfish and gumbo, there's a place a little outside of New Orleans in the Zalmans called Spars Restaurant, and I'm telling you, there is no better place for gumbo and fried catfish than Spars in the Zalmans. It's a little bit sort of on the bayou level. You're about 20 minutes away from the city, but man, it's worth the drive. And if you're a Bloody Mary drinker, I don't know if you are or not.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's got rated the best Bloody Mary, or one of the top Bloody Marys, in the state of Louisiana. Got some good stuff there. But even if you're in Mississippi, I'm going to give them a plug. You want good gumbo? You go to the Silver Slipper Casino, Beachside and Bayside, in Mississippi, and they have a shrimp, crab meat, oyster gumbo that you can't put the rice in it. You got to take a couple of sips out of it with the tablespoon to put the rice in. That gumbo is absolutely great at their oyster bar. So if you're in the Mississippi area and you beachside, man, go to the Slipper and go to that oyster bar. It's well worth that trip. That gumbo is tremendous, but it's great here too at Spars. I go there pretty often, and it's outstanding.
Oh man, that's good to hear. And before I let you go, I'll tell you, if you're ever in the Atlanta area, I live in Ackworth, about 30 miles north of there, and we got a fella from that has a Cajun, Louisiana, Creole-style restaurant. His name is Henry Chandler, Chef Henry, and he is a Cajun, and he does some good cooking, and he's got a dish called Louisiana Ooh La La, and it won on ABC. There was a cook-off between him and another restaurant somewhere, but Chef Henry's won. And Henry's a big character, huge LSU fan. So maybe one day we'll be able to meet up and go to Chef Henry's and have some Louisiana Ooh La La.
I've heard about it. Bobby Hebert, who I work with at WWL, he used to live in Alpharetta.
Oh, okay.
And so he's talked to me about Chef Henry. So I know exactly what you're talking about into that. And then the one thing down here, there's so many good restaurants.
Oh, God.
If it's Commander's or Brennan's, you name it. There's so many great restaurants. We did a presentation last night for the Saints at Desi Vegas and downtown in New Orleans. Just unbelievable food. Man, listen, if you want to diet, you don't want to be down here. That's all I'm telling you. You don't want to be down here at all. The barbecue places and everything else, oh my goodness, no, that's why I got trouble keeping my weight down.
I know, I hear you loud and clear, but whenever I make it down that way, I throw the diet out the window because you got to eat. And well, Mike, it is indeed been a great pleasure to have you on. I hate to get off the phone, but we're going to have to, and I just want to ask you if you will let people know where they can find you on Twitter or online, the programs you are involved in and so forth before we get out of here.
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Mike Detillier. You can go on WWL.com, find my stuff there, along with SaintsReport.com. So got a number of different places they can find me.
Okay, and you can find me again. This has been your host for the SEC Yesterday and Today, episode number 23, Bird LaCroix. I am on Twitter at Autull, AUTULL, birdlacroix@yahoo.com for my email address. And my columns, we have a week, I write for a college football roundtable every other week on sportshacks.com, and that's where you can also find these podcasts, and you can find them on iTunes, Apple, Stitcher, and other sources throughout the internet as well. But thanks again for listening, everybody. We thank again Mike Detillier for coming on our program, and we want to tell you to be safe out there and be sure to love your neighbor. Okay, Mike. Well, thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Bert. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yes, sir. Good luck down there Saturday night.
All right. Thank you.